Chinese President Xi Jinping presided over the country's largest ever military parade in Beijing, China, accompanied by Russia's President Vladimir Putin and North Korean leader Kim Jong-un. This dramatic display underscores emerging strategic alliance and China's growing geopolitical clout. Welcome to SATV's International Affairs. My name is Rashid Kanchan. I will be your host. I have a very distinguished panelist today, Professor Dr. Imtiaz Ahmed, and our international affairs commentator Shamsul Alam Pantho in the studio. And from Washington DC, we will have Norman Flatt Barnes. Let me begin with Norman because there are so many things going on in one part of the world, in China and in Washington. Some other dramatic things are going on. What are the latest you have, Mr. Norman Flatt Barnes from Washington DC?
Good morning, everyone from Washington. The big event was the parade last night, the Victory Parade. It was a magnificent, it was a global show that showed that showcased the perfection and the power of China. China has emerged as a leader in terms of global power. The show was absolutely perfection down to every last pebble in the street. The military was absolutely lockstep, and most importantly, the people of China got a chance to showcase and show their power. And the government and the president and all of the world leaders that was there showed global unity. So that was the biggest event. The response from Washington is still coming. It appears that the United States was watching. We probably were going to hear something from the president today, since he was off the air for a couple of days last week. He would probably respond today because it was something that the United States need to respond to.
Thank you, Norman.
Also here.
Yeah, go ahead.
Yes. Also here in the United States, we are looking at we just had an incident off of Venezuela where our naval task force was able to destroy a so-called terrorist drug cartel boat carrying drugs. This is a start of what's been put as a campaign against drugs coming into the United States. Venezuela is responding to that by having military people line their coastline. So we are looking at these two big items. Of course, Congress is back. We have budgets issues that have to be resolved by the end of the month. And we are contending with the situation in Chicago.
All right, Norman. All right, yes. Norman. We will come back again because we have the news. There are so many things developing inside United States against the Trump administration. Let me ask our international affairs commentator Shamsul Alam Pantho, is there anything very burning right this moment popping up in international media as breaking news?
Thank you so much, Mr. Kanchan. Of course, a very warm welcome to Professor Imtiaz and a very good morning to Norman Flatt Barnes in Washington, D.C. As you were picking out, we see the world's biggest leaders are meeting in China for the largest military parade. It is to commemorate the 80 years from end secession of the World War II. And not only so, Kim Jong-un of North Korea had visited this parade and is there right now. But all of the leaders were there from various countries from flights, but Kim Jong-un chose to come in his armored train from Pyongyang to Beijing and of course in Tianjin, where the meeting is happening and the parade is happening. But there is a breaking news, let me read it out to you. Trump is accusing China, North Korea and Russia of conspiring against the US. In his social media company Truth Social, I quote, "The big question is to be answered is whether or not President Xi of China will mention the massive amount of support and blood that the United States of America gave to China to help it secure its freedom from a very unfriendly foreign invader." Of course, Donald Trump was referring to the US involvement in World War II. So these are the comments that he is making, and not only so, Belgium has also announced sweeping measures on Tuesday targeting Israel over its war in Gaza, and is extending its arms embargo and banning importing goods and services produced in Israel settlements in the occupied territories.
Right, sir. Whenever I do a show, I just first try to learn and hear the latest things going on, and in the end I come to the expert. Here is an expert. I really love him. I like his works. I like his teaching. I like his speech and write up as well, column as well. Professor Imtiaz, my very favorite, very distinguished personality, sir. My question would be, what does China's massive military parade with Putin and Kim Jong-un signal about the future of global power alignment?
Thank you. I guess there will be some mixed reaction to the parade. On the positive side, I think China definitely, I think, succeeded in showcasing the world that we have the strength to defend ourselves. Keep in mind, China's military budget last year was around $230 billion, which is far less than United States nearly 900 billion to 1 trillion military budget. Now, China showcasing is critical because China is showing the look, even with $230 billion military budget, we can make the country, the infrastructure, look
Arsenal.
Mainly the welfare of the people. We can really develop China in different areas. If you go to China now, you will see how much developed they are, whereas you see United States with $1 trillion military budget really falling apart, because the infrastructure is really in a bad shape. The health sector is in bad shape. If you look at some of the areas, it's highly debted country, $38 trillion debt. So it's an interesting way of China showing the look, you can actually have a far less military budget and be powerful, have the strength to defend yourself, but at the same time you can look after the welfare of the people. So that would be on the positive side. I guess the mixed reaction will be here, because on the negative side, there will be critics, and I guess most of the critics will be from the West, will try to show here China is showing the hard power, maybe they have other intentions in the future or something. But given its military budget, it's not so big one, so I don't see that coming up. I see China's rise as a very peaceful rise. It hasn't gone to to a point of interfering in other countries' issues. Forget the colonizing part that is very much there. So it's an interesting showcase, because here, and I think Norman said correctly, that with perfection, what a perfection that they have shown. So a very disciplined force, having the strength to defend itself, but at the same time you can actually really empower the people to the point that also becomes a showcase, because if you go to China, which is the big one now.
Right. Absolutely. I really like the words and the way dimension he has given in his first introduction speech. Norman, I want to connect you once again. How significant is the ASEO summit in shaping economic and security partnerships in Asia? Because some critics are saying Donald Trump, including the United States, are feeling threat the SCO summit and showcasing of China's military mightiness?
Thank you for the question. It is obvious from the display with the summit, the show of unity, and the showcasing of the military abilities that something is emerging. The projection is that we are strong, we are developing. Everything you saw last night was made and utilized in China. Everything was Chinese. So basically it's saying we've come a long way in 80 years since the war. We are opening our arms that we have to take care of our partners. We are seeking unity, we're seeking peace, but we also have power. The United States have to look at that as a potential threat to the overall goal, because now is emerging that is a alternative instead of the Western way led by the United States. So there's a lot of concern about the imaging, how this magnificent show last night put on, and also the meeting of these world leaders. So that is something that is being strategized and figured out how we're going to move forward on that. Because right now we have two images. One, the United States is fragmented, disorganized, unstable, and the projection now of the Eastern world led by China is that we are stable, peaceful, and we can protect you.
All right, Norman, there is a saying, there is a proverb in journalism that if anything happens globally, who will react first? Answer is Washington will react first. Who will react last? Answer is China, and China will give a bottom line. My question to our international affairs commentator Shamsul Alam Pantho: can India truly balance its ties with both the United States and Russia-China bloc given current tensions? I know it is complicated.
Thank you for the question. Of course, when you are a bully and when you want to choose to bully 60 or 70 nations combined, you can rest assured that they will combine and take an attempt on bullying you back. But according to your question, even yesterday New Delhi had said that it is trying to negotiate a bilateral trade agreement with the US. Of course, it's still too early to say how much of the tariff that they will reduce, but it's still early and they're trying to come back to the 25% back from the 50% that they have right now. This is what the Commerce and Industry Minister Piyush Goyal said was, we are in a dialogue with the US for a bilateral trade agreement. So the Indians on their side are trying their best to get a trade agreement from America, because they understand how much effect it will have, a negative effect it will have in those industries and markets that are export orientated. But as of now, we've seen very recently Xi Jinping, Vladimir Putin and Narendra Modi share a laugh while coming before on the family photo stage. And of course, if you look at China, China had effectively made sure two rivals, two enemies can stand on the very same stage and get a photo done. Of course, I'm referring to India and Pakistan.
Right.
So you were mentioning how when something unfolds, it is Washington's claim in the first hand and it is China at the end of the track that is looking at. But if you look at the adversaries that the United States has faced in the last 12 months, we have Iran, we have North Korea, we have Russia, all of the leaders of
Turkey.
Turkey as well, all of these leaders who are meeting with China, the entire the global order is trying to make an emerging shift towards Chinese diplomacy and how China can add on to the geopolitical arena.
Sir, after you and after Norman, I will not dare to ask a question to Professor Imtiaz sir. Rather, I will request him what he is learning, what he is watching, what his comment on this China's showcasing to the rest of the world.
Well, couple of things, and I want to go back to where Pantho left on the issue of tariff and India and US, because that seems to be one of the big thing in the region. You see the tariff on India, and this is, I think, the Secretary of State Rubio tried to explain, and also I found someone who served in the democratic regime also tried to explain the tariff or the 50% tariff on India is as much well, it is to punish if you can use the word, or to pressurize, that's a better term, to pressurize India as much as it is to pressure Europe. Because what is happening is United States, as you know, wanted to capture the entire European market when it comes to oil, and it did, in fact, in many ways. That's where it scored the highest. But what was happening, Europe was buying Russian oil via India. That is what they want. So it's not, and because of this channel, Europe is almost, or the current European leadership is almost defined to Trump's policy on Ukraine. The reason why Europe is still holding to something closer to Zelensky's position and not tilting towards Trump is mainly because they still they're finding ways, and they're hoping that Trump will go away if we can continue, and so we continue the way we want to pressure Europe, and of course you try to help the military industrial complex in any way. So I think it's pressurizing. Yes, it's pressurizing India, but it's pressurizing Europe. So because the cost will go up, whatever export India and Europe does, and that is where I think we should focus, because it has to do with the Ukrainian war. So if they can come up, if Trump can come up with a solution in the Ukrainian war, if he can stop, I don't think this will matter much to India. And then what India would do, that's very difficult to say. I don't think what Shanghai conference and the military parade, what they signal is the arrival of multipolar world. I don't think we are witnessing another club against another club. It's not, we are not going back to Cold War. That's the point I'm trying to say. It's not ganging against United States. I don't think India would want that, because India has different layers of relationship with the United States. Its elite is highly pro-American, let's not forget that. Its diaspora is also very pro-Western, don't forget that. So I don't think just because Narendra Modi ended up going to Tianjin does not mean that there has been a total shift in what I think India has to learn, and this is the term that has been used from time to time, is India suffers from Stockholm syndrome. They know the United States can't be trusted, but they go back to the United States again and again. They know very well, because the same thing happened during the COVID-19 pandemic.
Yes, sir.
India wanted a vaccine diplomacy with AstraZeneca, if you remember. But then United States came very heavy on it, because AstraZeneca they produce, they don't own it, and the pressure was so much. If you remember, India could not even supply to Bangladesh at that particular time, because the raw material is to come from United States.
Yes, sir.
Because the United States was interested in its own vaccine. Don't forget it, the Pfizer and
Yes.
Moderna, all those things. So this is something India went through once with the United States, and I remember Donald Trump was then in power, and he said we know how to get it from India, and that pressure was put. So whether this Stockholm syndrome will go away with India, I don't know. Whether they will learn from this or not, that's difficult to say, but this much is clear, that the world is moving towards multipolar world, and Shanghai cooperation is a good example of that.
Amazing explanation from Professor Imtiaz, just mind-blowing. I was supposed to shift our discussion to Russia-Ukraine war, then Israel-Gaza conflict, trade and tariff issues. But there are something more important right this moment to discuss: President Trump and US politics. American people spoken, and they have spoken very clearly. They have spoken against the inflation. They have spoken about the domestic violence. They have spoken about the commodity price and job creation. And at last, court has spoken. What are the implications of a judge ruling Trump violated federal law by developing National Guard troops domestically? Because you know, Mr. Norman, in recent review, in an interview, President Donald Trump says he is going to appoint American Marines in different parts of the world. A judge ruled Trump violated federal law by deploying National Guard troops and Marines for local law enforcement in Los Angeles over the summer. What is your opinion? What is the goal of this deployment? What is the power he has to deploy the Marines inside America?
Yes, there was a court ruling from the lower court yesterday issued stating that it was illegal. The president has overstepped his authority by appointing himself as the chief law enforcement officer for the United States. Basically, the court's ruling that Trump's action is violation of posse comitatus, which is basically saying that we can't operate military in the United States for law enforcement purposes. They have stated that he exactly doing that. Basically, he wants a national police force, and he wants to be the chief. The court said that is not going to happen. Trump has mentioned yesterday, he stated that he is proceeding with sending troops to Chicago and other cities like Baltimore. That was mentioned yesterday. So the process has already been put in place. They are going to proceed, but they're going to use, instead of the crime-fighting military part, they are going in with the immigration part, supported by the military. So we are looking at a battle between, we're starting with Chicago, Illinois, and other parts of the state, the United States. The plan is to put this in place across the country. The president has limited authority with the states. The governor rules the states, not like D.C., where he oversees everything going on there. So it's going to be a challenge. There's going to be some manipulation in terms of how they get in. The federal troops can go in to deal with military location and also the immigration part. But the crime fighting part, it has to be orchestrated by the local governments. So right now there's going to be some pushback, there's going to be some resistance, and it's going public. The governor has put out that he wanted everybody to show their discomfort with this, go to the media and put this out. So now it's going to be live streamed.
All right, Norman, the administration, Trump administration is offering $1,000 bonuses to local police who meet immigration arrest targets. That means Donald Trump has given immigrant arrest targets, a further intensification of enforcement measures. I want to ask a question to Professor Imtiaz. Sir, America is a land of opportunity. America is a land of immigrants. America is a land of people who loves to change their life. Why this administration is offering $1,000 bonus to the local police to meet the arrest target? Does it go with the American policy?
Well, I'm not American. I think the American people would know more this. All I can say is that violence and crime rate, the drug issue is a serious issue in the United States. One cannot deny that. The number of people getting killed in gun violence is huge, and it's so huge for a developed country. That's the point. If it was a underdeveloped country, one can understand, but it has probably the highest, one of the highest in terms of per capita gun violence. I remember, it may be an old one. I think in 2024 or 23, every day 124 people were killed in gun violence. And in that 124, around I think 12 to 14 were children. So the gun violence is a serious one. And the drug issue is also a serious one. And the crime rate also, particularly cities like Chicago, South Bend and other areas. Washington DC too is also not safe. Very few people will say that you can walk in the United States in cities, whether it's New York, after sunset, it becomes quite terrifying, particularly for outsiders. At least for me, yes. I remember, which you don't see in Singapore, which you don't see in Shanghai or Beijing.
Even in Switzerland.
Or well, I'm not sure about Switzerland so much, because Europe has a different issue with crime. But look at some of the Asian countries, I would say. Go to Tokyo. They will. I remember I stayed 1 year in Japan, and they say, no, you can keep the door open. You don't have to lock it. Where will you get a country like that? So what I'm saying that you don't see that in the States. So it is an issue. Now, how to solve that? Well, Trump probably is thinking one way of resolving this issue. To what extent he will be able to do that, I'm not sure. But I think it also gives a signal to the United States that it's not only outside the United States where the military have a role. If there is a serious insecurity,
he can use military.
Internal, and it's very much in our country too. So maybe it is becoming a normal country now.
Exactly.
Maybe earlier it was possible to depend only on police,
yes.
But it looks like it's not possible. Now, let me give you the figure of extrajudicial killing by US police alone, which is on the average 1,000 extrajudicial killing takes place. And there is a research which shows only 2% got prosecuted, 98% really there's no prosecution on that. So that's a high number of extrajudicial killing by the police. So they have a serious problem. I can't say as a non-American how to resolve it, but I can understand why Trump wants to solve that, because unless you have a safe city, the image doesn't really change, and if the image doesn't change, then the investment also will not happen in every area. Then you will have pockets, of course, but when it comes to violence, one has to accept that things are not normal in the United States as we speak.
Right, sir. Yesterday at House of Commons, one of the Conservative Party member was saying the world has seen how brutal the US Marines are. Now the American people themselves will understand how brutal American Marines are. Ladies and gentlemen, that's none of our business, but business is we have to discuss some other things regarding the Donald Trump administration and inside US politics. Let us go for a short break. After the break, we have so many things, hot cakes for you. Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. In a recent interview, President Donald Trump expressed being very disappointed, very upset in Putin over the unresolved war in Ukraine. He reaffirmed US support for Ukraine and hinted at potential sanctions if peace progress stalls. It is a threat. Ladies and gentlemen, I want to ask a question to Norman Floyd Barnes from Washington, D.C. With Trump stating he is very upset, disappointed, demoralized and frustrated in Putin, what new leverage does the US really have in ending the Ukraine conflict?
The actual ability to end the conflict is something that the United States has very little control over. Congress is now back in session. They are going to look at in terms of sanctions that they could possibly impose against Russia. These sanctions will be basically dealing with economic sanctions. And Europe is also doing the same thing. But as we saw yesterday, the workaround, the alternative is being put in place. China and its newfound partnerships are now looking at alternatives in preparation for this type of aftershock. So we have to sit and watch and see how this thing plays out. The ultimate goal is peace. Everybody wants peace. Believe it or not, even with the show of military might, no one wants. It's not advantageous for the global shift going on. They want to move forward. People need to help each other. Countries need to work together. And it's not economically feasible to stay in this state of high conflict.
Norman, I know you have some time limitations, and in Washington it is 4:35 a.m. in the morning. I really appreciate. But I want to do the last question to you. How might potential new US sanctions on Russia affect global oil markets and European economics? Because in Europe, economic slowdown is visible now, inflation is visible now, anger of the populations, peoples are visible now.
Yes, we just have season change. It's going to the weather's going to change, and the dependence on oil. We are still in an oil-driven world. Europe is still seeking oil. China, everybody wants a better deal so they can deal with this thing. So the effects of peace and this situation with the tariffs and the conflict is all hinged on coming to a solution that works for everybody. So right now there's still optimism for a positive outcome.
Norman, thank you so much for your very insightful contribution to the show. I wish you a very good day today in Washington. Thank you very much. Let me come back to the studio.
You,
Sir, I want to do a question to you. Is NATO prepared for a long-term frozen conflict in Ukraine, or is there quite pressure for a negotiated settlement?
No, I don't think NATO is in a position to continue the war indefinitely. Keep in mind that every war ends, today or tomorrow. It's a matter of time. I don't think Europeans or people in Europe have the appetite for the war. They're already on the streets, the way they have come out. Look at the number of countries who have already committed to recognize Palestine this September.
Yes.
I think even Belgium joined yesterday. So, given that scenario, given people's aspirations, I don't think they have an appetite to continue the Ukraine war. And more importantly, if you look at the ground level, Ukraine is not doing well at all. So I think they have to go for peace. The point is when, how, and in what manner. I don't think they have enough things in their hand to negotiate or to bargain, and that is going to become less and less and less as time goes. So, I still think that Trump will succeed in helping a peace deal. That has been his big what you call a goal. And if he doesn't, even if he say okay, if he what's the option? The option is you will have the Western economy contributing to a military production, which is not going to help the people. So, I don't think they are in a position to continue the war indefinitely. They will need to resolve it in one way or other. So, the quicker they do, the better. But I guess we still have to wait. The cards are still there, but as I said, the governments in Europe, not the people, but the governments in Europe still want to continue, because somehow after the Second World War, they found the United States to lead them everywhere. This is the first time probably in a big way they are finding where the United States is not interested to lead them. And you have seen at the Oval Office how the European leaders were sitting and how Trump was sitting. So, if they have a little bit of respect of their own, they probably will think of transforming, as I said last time, I think NATO into ETO, European Treaty Organization. Now, whether they are heading towards that or not, but even if there is a European Treaty Organization, I think one thing they will try to do is to resolve the conflict, because I don't think they are in that position economically to continue the war, because it's quite costly. It's not it's not cheap. So, what do you do? So, I guess we just have to wait for a while and see how that is done, but I am still hopeful that Trump will succeed, because the alternative is not a good scenario that we should look forward to.
Yes, sir. I sometimes feel the European leaders reporting headquarter is in Oval Office. So, let's turn into the SCO summit's outcome and the trade and tariff dynamics. I read one news line from China dailies. At the SCO summit, Trump said India agreed to cut tariffs to almost nothing, a claim that sparked skepticism. Different economists cautioned that the optics may be misleading. My question to you, Trump claimed India agreed to cut tariffs, almost nothing, and the SCO summit, how realistic is that assertion?
Well, we live in the 21st century, and you see the speed of data, speed of information traveling throughout the globe, the optics and the narratives that we commonly pick out and discuss on this very table. You see, India is in a very tough situation between two different rocks, if I would call it. One, India has to balance its trade negotiation with America. India also has to balance its neighborhood. And when I say neighborhood, I definitely mean China on one end, and definitely they have an issue with Pakistan over the water sharing matter. It still remains unresolved, even though US says it was US mediation that had stopped the war. India says it was not the case, and this is where the narratives don't combine, and that is a bad signal for them to be hosting a negotiation down from the 50% tariff. But as per your initial question, what does the SCO signify in the region? Let me tell you, there's a build-up. Singapore's Prime Minister Lawrence Wong is visiting India in a straight travel, and we know that Singapore is one of those countries who also have to do a balancing act between Western powers and, of course, in its neighborhood, China. And if you look at Chinese geopolitical dependencies and diplomacy, they do have a somewhat aspect towards Malaysia, Vietnam, China, whether it be cultural and if not geopolitical. But India on a global stage is doing far better than previous years, I would say. But if you look at immediate neighborhood, Nepal, Bhutan, Sri Lanka, Bangladesh, Pakistan, as well as Iran, This part used to be a very big part into the ancient Silk Road, and that is definitely going to be one of the topics that India may choose to talk with China about.
Sir, before I go to the break, I just want to do a hypothetical question. Are we witnessing a return of protectionist trade policies globally, or will major economies pivot back toward open markets?
No, I don't think you can reverse capitalism. That's the problem with economics dynamics. You can't go back. I don't think you can go, to the Protestant era or the mercantile era as we had earlier, because your economy now is, constructed through multiple things, what we call globalization. What has happened in globalization is production became international for the first time in the history of capitalism. You don't see that in Marx or in Lenin's works. They talked about internationalization of finance, internationalization of trade, internationalization of also banking, but not production, because they did not think the production could become international. Now, production became international largely because of the technological development. You have ships now which can carry your goods as big as 8 or 10 soccer fields. It's huge. And then, of course, the technology that you have here, as we speak, any country anywhere can listen. So you can do the trading almost second by second, which was not possible during Marx's time or Lenin's time. So production becoming international, and whatever we are wearing, yes, we say it's made in Bangladesh, but it means little, because there are elements where the cotton has come from several countries, the fashion has come from several countries, and then we export to several, so we have this whole complex structure now with the production. So you can't do that, and that is where I think people are skeptic about Donald Trump, because what he wants is to get back to the manufacturing sector that was there earlier and that he had, because the manufacturing sector fled. Now, anybody knowing that if you want to have the same manufacturing sector, it will be very costly. And so what do? So maybe on the high end, probably possible, if it's a high technology and etc. Some of the things that were produced, maybe you can bring back to the United States. And there are talk about that Europe is going to invest in billions of dollars to US. I think same thing Donald Trump is asking India to do, to invest in the United States, pressurizing India to do that. But you can't do it overnight. And Trump administration understands that. They are not saying that it's going to happen tomorrow. Let's face it, because what you see Trump doing is the Republican agenda. Now, every 4 or 5 years they come with this Republican agenda, called Leadership. This time it's called Leadership 2025, and it's done by the Heritage Foundation. So if you look at the volume, and which is huge, I have the summarized version, which is 1,000 pages. You can imagine, but otherwise it's 20 volumes. I think, if I'm not wrong, 360 scholars were involved, 50 institutions were involved to do the Republican agenda. So it's a Republican agenda, so it's not going to go away with Trump. A lot of people are thinking, oh, if Trump goes, then the whole thing is going to change, right. US aid is going to come. No. It's a Republican agenda. So we have to see how far the Republicans or the United States or Donald Trump is able to push its agenda, and how far the people would accept that, because at the end of the day, people are going to come back and vote, either in the in the midterm election, and then after 3-4 years you have the main election. So there are issues waiting, but I don't see it's going to go away, because as I said even earlier, the United States, the main problem the US has is the $38 trillion military budget. That $38 trillion deficit cannot allow a war to continue in Ukraine forever. That's the point.
Fair enough, sir. Fair enough to discuss the current scenario of the world. Ladies and gentlemen, when I will be back from a commercial break, I will ask a question to both of my distinguished guests. What things will lead the next world order? Is it economy? Is it military mightiness? Is it technology, or is it humanity? Let us come back from a commercial break. Ladies and gentlemen, I told you that when I'll be coming back, I'll ask a question to both of my distinguished panelists today, especially Professor Imtiaz. Sir, what things will lead the upcoming world? Is it technology? Is it economy? Is it military power? Is it AI-driven technologies, or is it humanity?
Well, I think all of which, a combination of all that you have said, because technology definitely has played a role in human history, and this is not the first time people make, I think, too much of AI. I don't know why. Yes, it's a substantially a qualitative leap, that much I will agree, no doubt about that, because earlier the amount of time you needed to get through some data, now you can get in seconds. I can understand that, but nonetheless it's a technology. Humans have gone through this leap in a big way. I remember reading Plato way back, and I don't know whether it's Plato's dialogues, but is referred to Socrates, that he was against the introduction of writing. When writing started, he said, no, this is going to spoil the young minds because they will not go into memory, the memory will lose. But that did not stop writing, writing continued, and the whole European civilization changed from an oral civilization to a textual civilization. Okay. So, the point here is technology definitely will play a lot, but I think what is more important is the human aspirations have really come up at a level where you can't go to a position of domination, and whether it's colonialism or slavery, you can't do that. That much can be said, because people now know very quickly what is happening wherever it is happening. So, I think the human aspirations have come up in a way which is markedly different from earlier centuries, and that is not going to go away, because people now know what is happening, where it is happening. So that I think is going to change, because with the technology you don't have to be textual literate. You cannot be textual illiterate, but you can be literate otherwise. You can be visual literate, is it? And you don't need writing now, because when you speak, that can change into writing simultaneously. So, look at the changes. You don't need to learn languages, because I can speak in English, it can be translated immediately in any language. These are the changes that's going to bring, I think, people more closely, rather than going back to a point where we had divisions and domination and conflict. So, I'm more hopeful about future. It's only that we need to invest. If we don't invest, then other countries will come, will win the race and will fall back. So, if we don't invest in the knowledge, and I think as people give credit to Francis Bacon that knowledge is power, but he is not the one who said it first. It was actually Ferdowsi in Shahnama. And the first line of Shahnama is actually this, and let me, if I can remember, it says, this is what Ferdowsi in Shahnama is saying: knowledge is power, knowledge gives an old heart a new flower. That's where this idea of knowledge power comes. It's not knowledge power at Francis Bacon, go and colonize other countries. Right. I think they took it in a different direction altogether. Right. So, Ferdowsi point still remains very I think it's critical for Bangladesh. So, I always say that Bangladesh should invest in knowledge, but unfortunately our elite, I've said earlier also, they have their one leg outside. They don't have two legs outside. You have to make your schools and colleges as excellent as Harvard, Yale or Tokyo University or Beijing University or Peking University. If you don't do that, you are going to lose out, then others will intellectually dominate you. Yes. So, the point is, domination will have a different kind of a structure altogether. So, here Bangladesh has an opportunity to actually leap forward as China has done. Look at how China has leaped forward. Nobody would have thought 20 years earlier or during 70s, let us talk about 1971, nobody would have thought that. I remember when computer came, China and India were almost at the same level. Indira Gandhi said no to computer. He said, no, this is going to bring unemployment, whereas Deng Xiaoping said yes to computer. Look at where China went, and what a mistake the Indian leadership did at that particular time. Now they are trying to, overcome the slowness that they had. So I think Bangladesh should seriously look into the knowledge issue, because if we can invest as much as some of the other countries have done, then we can make a difference. So, it will need all, it will need technology, economy, nothing can be left out, because we are moving into a multipolar world where things would be very complex, will be multi-layered, will be multifocal. So, you have to be very, very smart.
Right. When Professor Imtiaz says in such a way, do we really have anything to add? Or
I've got nothing more to add. The way Professor Imtiaz has given a brief description of how it was in the past and how it is now. One thing I would just
amazing. I really like
just want to add very shortly, as we are running out of time. People are now more dependent on technologies, and I don't see any young fellow going into a library understanding about history and they're not reading. They're dependent on these technologies. Whether it will be fruitful for them or not is a matter of discussion. But of course, I would want to see a world where both sides, the old and the new, are in a combination.
I really appreciate Shamsul Alam Panto, our international affairs commentator, and Professor Imtiaz, international affairs professor, writer, columnist and speaker. Ladies and gentlemen, after hearing very attentively from Professor Professor Imtiaz, I must say, and I must make a summary like this: be tech savvy, not tech slavey. I will see you tomorrow.
Control